Hi, fourth graders. Today you're going to be reading two texts on the Intolerable Acts. So the first one is the Ducksters website, which you're going to read and take notes on in your weekly note-taking document. The second one is a Google document called Week 4 Intolerable Acts. I am going to show you how I take notes on this document. And I suggest you take some notes on it too, even though we did not put a place in the document for this. This article has a ton of information, and it'll be really helpful to you when you are teaching someone else about this topic. So if you haven't yet read this article, I want you to pause the video right now, go read it, and then come back. All right, welcome back. So this text on the Intolerable Acts has a lot of really great information, and I want to take notes on it in a variety of ways that will help me to keep track of all the information. So now that I have already read it, I'm going to come over here to my document, and the first thing that I ask myself is, Miss Phillips, what were the Intolerable Acts? If you were going to put that into your own words, what would you say? Well, if I was going to, put this into my own words, I would say they were a whole bunch of laws and rules created by the British government. Okay? That's just my basic definition after reading these texts today. Now, I want to take much more specific notes because as I was reading, I heard about 4 different acts that were part of the Intolerable Acts. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a list of the acts that were passed. Okay. In this second paragraph, I'm going to reread it, and I hear about the first act. One of the first acts passed was called the Boston Port Act. It was a direct punishment to the city of Boston for the Boston Tea Party. British ships blockaded Boston Harbor, closing the port to all ships and shutting down trade until the colonists paid for the tea they dumped into the harbor. Okay, so the Boston Port Act, what was it? Well, this meant that the Boston Harbor, I don't need a capital, harbor was closed until they paid for the tea. Great. This angered not only people in Boston, but also people in other colonies who were afraid the British would do the same thing to them. Many felt that this punishment was unfair because it punished all the citizens of Boston for a crime that only a few committed. Interesting. So the Boston Port Act was put into place, and I just heard 3 different things that happened as a result, or were effects of the Boston Port Act. What I'm going to do now is actually skip down a couple lines, and I'm going to insert a table. This seems like the perfect place for me to keep track of some cause and effect. And actually, in this case, there were several effects. So the Boston Port Act was the event. That was the thing that happened. Now, what happened as a result? What were the effects? Well, the first thing that I heard was that the colonists in Boston were angry. Okay? The second thing I heard was that people in other colonies were afraid that the British would do the same thing to them. Okay, so let's see. Other colonies were scared the British might do this to their homes and communities. Now, I didn't copy exactly what it said here in the sentence. I tried to repeat it in my own words. The third thing that I heard happened, an effect after the Boston Port Act being put into place was that many felt that this punishment was unfair because it punished all the citizens of Boston for a crime that only a few committed. Okay, so how do I put that into my own words? Many thought it was unfair because not everyone participated in the Tea Party. I have a really hard time typing and speaking at the same time. Okay, great. So here I had just an overview definition of what the Boston Port Act was, but down here I have some more specific information. All right, going to the next paragraph, I learned about the second Intolerable Act. I'm going to come up here and add this to my list. The second Intolerable Act, which we read about, was the Massachusetts Government Act. Okay. The second of the Intolerable Acts, called the Massachusetts Government Act, put an end to the Constitution of Massachusetts. This meant that colonists in Massachusetts could no longer have more than one town meeting each year, and King George would be the one in charge of naming all the town officials and executive council members. Not only did the people of Massachusetts lose their ability to vote, the colony itself lost its 1691 charter. So if I was going to sum that all up into one sentence, what was the Massachusetts Government Act? Well, it sounds like it took away their ability to make their own decisions. Now, they actually named several ways that the Massachusetts Government Act took away the ability for the colony to make their decisions. So this note that I just wrote is really not enough to explain what the Massachusetts Government Act was. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scroll down in my notes, and I was thinking that maybe since we heard the several details about what the Massachusetts Government Act did, maybe I can take notes down here using boxes and bullets. All right, so the Massachusetts Government Act. Now, up here, I said it took away their ability, but how did it do that? So I'm going to actually try to keep track of the details of how it limited their ability to make decisions. All right, rereading here. This meant that colonists in Massachusetts could no longer have more than one town meeting each year. Okay, so they could only have one meeting a year. Great. What else did the Massachusetts Government Act do? King George III would be the one in charge of naming all the town officials and executive council members. All right, so King George III got to choose all the people in charge. Oh, how unfair. What else did the Massachusetts Government Act do? Not only did the people of Massachusetts lose their ability to vote, the colony itself lost its 1691 charter. Oh, so wait, the people lost their right to vote. And, I'm not actually sure what the charter is, but it sounds important, doesn't it? This sentence said, not only did the people of Massachusetts lose their ability to vote, the colony itself lost its 1691 charter. So not only did this bad thing happen, but something else happened that was also bad. So even though I don't know exactly what this means right now, I'm still going to record it in my notes. So colony lost its 1691 charter. Now, I'm going to make a note to myself and say, what's a charter? Because this might be something I can revisit later. Sounds important. All right, friends. So as I read the rest of the article, which I'm not going to do right now, I will see what the third act was, and what the fourth act was. And I will take notes here in my list with a little summary, but I also might choose to take notes in another structure that will provide me more detail. So please give this a try. We're looking for your notes to be more detailed than some of what we have seen so far. But you're doing great, so keep up the good work.